The Fauci hearings just exploded.
That's the way you want to be remembered, and that's what you're going to do. You are not recognized, sir. Security, please remove him from the room.
And that's how it started, with the expulsion of Fauci's attorney. And things got a whole lot worse than that. Stick them in the very end of this video because we've got the latest on the hearings. We've got the new bombshell revelations coming from Fauci's own diary. And we've got Rand Paul openly discussing how Fauci will indeed end up behind bars. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared this morning under subpoena before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, chaired by longtime nemesis Senator Rand Paul. And in his opening statement, Fauci immediately tried to recast the hearings as a Republican witch hunt against him.
However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion.
And then from that point forward, Anthony Fauci, the man who testified before Congress over 250 times without ever once invoking the Fifth Amendment, did exactly that, only that, live, repeatedly, in front of cameras, in front of the entire nation.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
And he did just that, no matter what he was asked. And at one point, Senator Josh Hawley decided to have a little fun at this charlatan's expense.
Well, nothing says honesty like taking the Fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one.
That was brilliant, but perhaps the single most humiliating moment of those hearings came from Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno when he asked Fauci this.
You may have had a 50-plus year legacy of public service, but it ends in total and complete disgrace. So let me ask you an opportunity to answer one question. Will you apologize, just apologize, to the people who you harmed through your actions? Will you say, do you have the dignity to just say you're sorry?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Absolutely, breathtakingly humiliating. He did that in front of the entire nation. That is a commercial, a campaign commercial that could be played, that could just be looped over and over again. And it was more than Senator Moreno could bear.
It was about 6 years ago today that I decided I'm going to give up my businesses, sell them all, run for office, run for the United States Senate. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the f*** do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. And if my Democrat colleagues are standing there defending you, I hope the voters of the United States of America watch the clips of every one of you doting on a guy who was more interested in being a celebrity than saving American people.
Now, what he's getting at there is the rather embarrassing revelation that Fauci was actually rather obsessed by the kind of celebrity he turned into during the pandemic. This was something that dropped just a few days ago, Fauci's own personal diary. These were the personal daily notes from his time running the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases during the pandemic. And Senator Rand Paul released roughly 1,000 pages of Fauci's personal, handwritten, pandemic-era journal entries. It's covering December 2019 all the way through December 2022. And Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. revealed that he's the one who dug these files up off government servers after an 8-month search, and he personally handed them to Paul. So what actually is in this diary? I mean, this is these are Fauci's thoughts, in effect, put on paper at the very time all of this was happening. What were the revelations that came out of that? Buckle up, gang. This is going to absolutely blow you away. But first, gang, one of the most frequent questions I get asked by our audience is this. Maybe you wanted to ask this. Dr. Steve, is now really the right time to buy gold? Right? It's a fair question. Gold has had a tremendous run. Silver has been moving higher and higher. So naturally people wonder, so did I miss it? Is it too late? But I actually think that's the wrong way of looking at it. The real question isn't whether gold has already gone up. Obviously it has. The real question is whether the reasons for owning it have changed. I mean, think about where we are today. Central banks continue buying gold at record levels all over the world. Global debt continues to explode. Geopolitical tensions aren't going away. These are the very trends that we've been talking about on this channel for years. And if those trends haven't changed, then why would the case for owning physical gold and silver? So that's why more and more people are taking a closer look, not because they're chasing price, but because they're responding to what's happening in the world. Some are purchasing physical gold and silver directly. Others are moving a portion of an IRA or 401k into a gold IRA as part of their long-term wealth protection strategy. That's one reason why I trust Augusta Precious Metals. What I appreciate is that they don't try to convince you to buy anything. They start by helping you understand your options. They'll explain how purchasing physical gold or silver works, show you how a gold IRA works if you're using retirement funds, answer your questions, and then let you decide whether it's right for your situation. So if you'd like to learn more, go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052. That's 35052 and request Augusta's free guide. Because in my view, the question isn't whether gold has already moved, it's whether the reasons for owning it have changed. And from where I sit, they haven't. Click on that link below right now. While Americans were dying by the tens of thousands, Fauci, as it turns out, was privately obsessing over his own fame. In one entry from 2020, as the death toll approached 98,000, Fauci wrote that his, quote, national and international fame is explosive and truly unimaginable. And he insisted that describing his celebrity in terms of global recognition was, quote, not hyperbole. He was literally a planetary star. By late June of 2020, with daily case counts hitting a staggering 40,000 in a single day, Fauci was writing about receiving an invitation to appear on Dancing with the Stars. You can't make this stuff up. He even wrote that Secret Service agents at the White House had grown so used to seeing him, they'd just wave his car straight through security without even checking his ID. And in perhaps the most jaw-dropping entry of them all, Fauci described fangirling over a phone call with Barbra Streisand, walking her through how to use Amazon's Alexa and personally assuring her it was safe to get the mRNA vaccine. But that's nothing. The real bombshell from the diaries is how many of Fauci's entries completely contradict the official narrative that Fauci and other public health officials espoused at the very same time. A January 26 entry states explicitly that, quote, "We know the market," that's the Chinese wet market, the open air marketplaces in China, "we know the market was not the source of the virus," completely contradicting his public wet market narrative. And then there were entries that also show him privately taking credit for pushing lockdowns and school closures, all the while he denied ever recommending that publicly. And he also, allegedly, fed preferred questions to CNN's Jake Tapper. And there are still huge, glaring questions Fauci has never actually answered under oath. Did the NIH fund gain-of-function research in Wuhan despite Fauci's repeated denials? Why did the FBI conclude a lab leak likely caused the pandemic, all the while Fauci spent the early days publicly shutting that theory down? Why, when questioned about masking and 6-foot social distancing rules that shut down businesses, churches, schools across the entire country, why has Fauci never been able to point to a single hard study proving those mandates actually worked? I mean, we could go on. And it's only going to get worse for Fauci. The auto pen pardon only covers conduct up through the date it was signed. Anything Fauci now does, including refusing to answer today's questions or making false statements in this very hearing, falls entirely outside that protection. That's the huge problem that Fauci's facing here, and it's what makes these hearings so brilliant. So if on the one hand he were to actually answer the questions, of course he risks providing fodder for prosecution, most especially for state prosecutors, since presidential pardons only protect you from federal prosecution, not state prosecution. So Fauci's fair game for any state attorney general who thinks they can make a strong case for how he adversely affected their citizens. But on the other hand, as Senator Paul reminded him just today, a presidential pardon waives the right to appeal to the Fifth, since the pardon protects Fauci from self-incrimination, and therefore his refusal to answer their questions is a blatant obstruction of a congressional investigation. Either way, Fauci is cooked. So here's the bottom line. A man who testified before Congress over 250 times without ever once invoking his constitutional right against self-incrimination did just exactly that today, live on camera in front of the entire nation, repeatedly, almost absurdly. His own diary reveals a man far more consumed with his own fame than the mounting body count outside his window. And that pardon he's hiding behind, it's a lot thinner than he'd like you to believe. It doesn't touch the states, it doesn't cover new conduct, and it sure doesn't cover obstructing a Senate investigation. The days of Anthony Fauci hiding behind trust the science are over. Now, for the first time, he's the one who has to answer to something far bigger than a press conference podium: the law itself. So what do you guys think? Do you think we got him? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to hear what you have to say. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless. You've got enough on your plate. You shouldn't have to babysit the news cycle too. Let me carry that noise for you. I'll sift it, I'll watch it, and I'll tell you what really matters for your home so you can lead in peace, not panic. Hit the link below and get my Patriot Alerts, and let me help you protect your family with clarity every single day.